Welcome back to Scouching's 2024 NHL Draft Recap Series, and today we're going to be looking at the New York Rangers. Now, the Rangers were another one of those teams that weren't particularly busy on draft day, but they did make some interesting selections here and there. To start things off, the New York Rangers did something that, personally, I kind of expected them to do, and drafted Emery from the U.S. National Team Development Program. I've gone back and forth a little bit on Emery, but I do find that his under-18 performance was really impressive and showcased some sides of his game that I wished I saw a little more of going into the tournament. He was a player I had in my mid-second round because he's the style of player I just don't prioritize as much as others in the draft, but that does not mean he's a bad player whatsoever. I think he's a very well-rounded, athletic defenseman that does have some defensive upside. I'm not sure how much offense you're going to get out of him, but if you're a Rangers fan, you are going to enjoy watching him play. He has a physical edge to him, he gets around the ice pretty well, and I think for him the biggest things that need to improve are really just the refinements in the defensive end, monitoring defensive rushes, and really finishing a lot more of his checks than he already does. I do think that there is a lot of development necessary to build more of an offensive game, but there are signs here and there that there might be something you can exploit a little more going forward. After quite a break, the New York Rangers drafted Ruel Boyard from the Baie-Comeau Drakkar of the QMJHL here in Canada. Now, Ruel Boyard is a player I was having a hard time with this season. There were people telling me that this is one of the more undervalued players in the draft, and I do see that there is a case here to be made that he is another one of these players that is very smart, sees the ice really well, times his plays really well, and just marches the puck up the ice decently well at the level he plays at. But I just didn't see enough that moved the needle for me in other areas of the game that put him on my list at the end of the season. He is good enough to get drafted, do not get me wrong, and he's a nice blank slate to work with, but I just don't know how much upside there is here. But with a lot of good development over the next few years, there is at least a good backbone to develop with Boyard, and I did enjoy watching him play. It's just projecting him to the NHL is a little bit tough for me right now. At 159th, the Rangers did something the Rangers are known to do in the draft from time to time and drafted a really raw, tall guy in Nathan Aspinall. Now, I've seen Aspinall with the Firebirds a couple of times this year, and again, similar to Boyard, he didn't really move the needle all that much for me. I don't think he brings quite the same thinking first style of play that Boyard brings, but he is a pretty decent, well-rounded guy who gets up and down the ice and has a bit of physicality in his game. And he's 6'7", so, you give him a few years of development, and, Matthew Rempe and Adam Enstrom, they're all playing in the NHL, so maybe Aspinall's the next one. At 191st, they drafted Rico Greig from Davos in the Swiss Pro League, and the Swiss Pro League is a very high level of hockey, so drafting a player out of that league, you have a decent developmental track already. I just didn't see a whole lot in Greig this year. I watched him a bit at the World Juniors this season, and then watched him back at the pro level during the year. He didn't look out of place in that high-level men's pro league, but I just didn't see him again, similar to Aspinall and Boyard, being enough of a needle mover where I was really interested. This seems like a guy they're just taking a shot in the dark on, and you leave him in Switzerland for a few years, and maybe the skill level develops a little bit more. I think more pace is needed in his game in order to chip in offensively more often, and I didn't really see that much of a physical side to him either, but maybe they really like the kid, maybe they have an inside track on some potential development with him. I can't judge, but at 191st, there might have been other players I look at, but drafting a pro player playing at a really tough level in Europe, it gets a pass from me. Well, that's it for that one. It was pretty quick, and the Rangers are going to get a 3B. They seem to have drafted a lot of the similar type of archetype of player here. Pretty big, they play pretty heavy, they don't have a tremendous amount of offensive upside, but there's nothing that says that Emery can't at least be a bottom pair defenseman in the future or a second pair guy, and there's nothing that says that guys like Boyard and Aspinall can't be a fourth or third line guy on the Rangers in the future. They didn't aim very high, but they did get some interesting players, and they didn't have a whole lot of draft capital, and I think at least with Emery they'll get something. So, I hope you enjoyed it. That's it for the Rangers. If you liked it, you can go to our description box and find our Fanatics affiliate link where you buy anything in the store and we'll get a small kickback. Or you can get a subscription to Scouching.ca where you'll get access to a private Discord server, as well as plenty of fun data tables for drafted, undrafted prospects, and plenty of other toys you won't find anywhere else. So that's it for the New York Rangers, and next we're going to be looking at the Colorado Avalanche.